Okay, we are live.
We're running. We're in reality. Woo! Hi, everyone. We're just chatting for a little bit as the video starts and welcoming you all to our virtual trivia dome. So if you're just tuning in, hang on, and we're going to start a little bit after 7 p.m. or whatever p.m. or a.m. it is in whatever time zone you're tuning in from.
Yeah, I don't know if we're like pulling a lot of viewers from we're staying up
yeah.
till 2 in the morning.
Yeah, somebody.
You don't know. Someone probably just tuned in at 7 a.m. doing this as they get ready for work on the other side of the world.
If we have any Central Asian fans out there that have woken up early to see this, good morning and thanks for making time.
I feel like trivia would be a good way to wake up. Everyone always does it in the evening, but
yeah, that's when you're sharpest. It's like you're taking the SAT or whatever in the morning when you're really ready to remember arcane facts about Boston.
I think 11 a.m. is like the time for your brain. So maybe 11 a.m. brunch trivia will be in the cards in the future.
That's a good idea.
That is actually.
Also, if
that's my own trivia.
If you're just tuning in,
sorry.
I'm saying if you've already been to our trivia nights in the past or have used Atlascope, we're going to start with a little rundown of how to use Atlascope. And so if that's old hat for you, feel free to go make some popcorn or whatever, check the news and come back in 5 minutes when we start with the trivia questions. Should we get started?
Yeah.
You two ready to go? Are you buckled into your trivia chairs?
I am.
I'm not buckled into my trivia chair.
Well, state law.
Pretty unsafe.
Everybody under the age of 65 needs to buckle into their trivia chair. If you're just joining us, this is the Leventhal Method Education Center and Emerald Necklace Coalition Trivia Night. We are back with our Atlascope++ trivia. I'm Garrett Nelson. I'm the Curator of Maps and Director of Geographic Scholarship at the Leventhal Method Education Center. And I'm joined by, I never know how to which side you're seeing these things on. I'm joined by Rachel Mead.
Hi.
And who now I guess now is below me or in some other orientation. And joining us from the Emerald Necklace Coalition, Joel Boyle.
Hi. Nice to see everyone virtually.
Yeah, we're so glad everybody could tune in. I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, who's going to get us started with some introductory material. Then we're going to talk about how trivia works, and we'll launch into the questions.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge before we begin that we live in, and we're discussing land that was unjustly taken from Native people. When European settlers when European settlers called the Shawmut Peninsula Boston, it was originally called Mashawwomic by Algonquian speakers, and it was and is home to groups including the Mashpee and Aquidda Wampanoag tribes, the Nipmuc nations, and descendants of the Massachusetts people. Parklands that we discuss tonight have been enjoyed, harvested, and used in numerous ways by Indigenous people for thousands of years. The urban atlases on Atlascope, which we'll use for 2 rounds of tonight's trivia, record property ownership in the 19th and 20th centuries, but they don't adequately address previous or contemporary Native groups. Often the late 19th and early 20th century period is thought of as a time long after colonization in New England, but colonialism is an ongoing process, both in the time these maps were created and today. These atlases were being produced during the same period that settler governments were prosecuting massive, violent efforts at Native land dispossession in other parts of the continent. Today, nations and bands are still asking for recognition and land rights from federal, state, and local governments. So the land we're standing on today, much like the land that's documented in these atlases, cannot be understood without acknowledging the expropriation and genocide which took place during colonization. Many of the maps we have at the Leventhal Map and Education Center were created for this project of colonialism, expansion, erasure, and dispossession. The urban atlases certainly represent erasure. However, Native people remain on this territory, carrying on the traditions of many generations. If you're tuning in from out of town, take a look at native-land.ca. I think it's a really excellent digital mapping project to start to develop your thinking about the ways cartographies of colonialism relate to your life and where you live. And this land acknowledgement is really just an acknowledgement, but hopefully it becomes a seed for change in the ways that we interact both with land and the legacy of settler colonialism. So you can leave a note about whose lands you're on in the comments if you'd like. Probably a lot of you are from Boston, so you're going to find the same information that I've already said here. But I know we have a lot of people tuning in from out of town, so we'll be looking at the comments throughout the night. We want this to be a very interactive trivia night, so let us know if you have questions or comments as we go, and we'll address those as well. So without further introductory material, should I share my screen?
Awesome.
I don't know how to make this bigger.
That looks pretty good to me. Just a couple of notes. So, if you're seeing this, you're either on YouTube or Facebook. We should be able to see your comments that you enter into the Facebook and YouTube chats, though we can't promise to answer all of them. Don't submit your answers there. We're going to tell you in a second how to submit your answers.
Oops. Okay. So here's how you submit those answers. We're gonna put up, Garrett, can you put this link into the chats? So basically you're gonna refresh this page that Garrett will link you to once per round. So fill it out once per team. Keep your, the person who's submitting the answers, you might wanna keep the same every time. Just for consistency, but make sure you know who's submitting the answers. We will grade the most recent one, no matter if like 2 or 3 rounds or 2 or 3 answer sheets come in from the same team. We're just gonna score the most recent one. Keep your team name the same. Keep your team name the same each round, and yeah, we'll score the last submission. So
one other hint. One other hint, choose an odd, bizarre team name that only you know. Don't choose like Atlascope Awesome or something like that, because everybody's going to choose that. Well, now they're not that I've said it, but be idiosyncratic with your team name so we can guarantee we know exactly who we're scoring from round to round.
It will be very helpful if you keep your keep your name very unique.
Also, some of you may be playing alone, or some of you may be playing with a group in person. It's really up to you how you want to kind of arrange your screens, whether you're watching us on one screen and you have the answer form on your phone, or you have your friends on another screen. That's all your choice, whatever works best. But you're going to want to make sure that you have a fairly good spot to use Atlascope itself, the tool that we'll be exploring a lot for several of these rounds. And you can use Atlascope again on a phone or a tablet or a computer. So you've got multiple screens, or like some giant, evil genius thing with like 30 large panel displays.
I'm pretty sure all of our viewers have triple monitors at least, Garrett.
They're all evil geniuses.
Yeah, exactly. Now that the election is over, mostly over, all those crazy screens that they use, I assume you all just inherited those.
They're going on sale. Yeah, so we have just a couple of rules. Don't Google the answer. That's not very fun for people who are trying to just play. It's also cheating. So just use Atlascope, and for the Emerald Necklace Conservancy answers, you have to find those within yourself. So make sure you are thinking of all your park knowledge right now. We reserve the right to be arbitrary and capricious with judging questionable answers. So if you don't know, put something in, try something, and having fun is mandatory. If you're not having fun, change that.
You have to close your computer immediately and walk away and have a timeout.
Every monitor that you have to close.
All 30 flat screen monitors.
Cool. So we're just going to go through how to use Atlascope briefly. There's a tiny learning curve. So if you want, you can follow along with me on atlascope.leventhallmap.org. So you are going to open it up. You're going to land on this page. There's an option below this, which is Find Me under this red arrow. You probably don't want it to track you around Boston right now because hopefully you're not like running around to all of the parks to try to answer these. Instead, you're going to click Search Places in the middle. And then if you were, for example, trying to find the Fields Corner Library, you would type in 1520 Dorchester Ave. Make sure you choose the right one because there are often different 1520 Dorchester Aves. Clearly not in this case, but often there are different options available. I was looking at school streets last time, and let me tell you, there was a lot that could go wrong.
It's also worth pointing out that the address search, of course, is searching today's addresses. Mm-hmm. So if we ask a question that involves a historic address, there's a chance that the same address is in the same place today, but it's not a guarantee. So you'll want to make sure that what you're looking at on the historic maps actually matches up with what you think you're seeing.
And that will be definitely in play tonight during trivia. So make sure you are looking up addresses that exist currently or places that exist currently. So if you were to look up 1520 Dorchester Ave, it would plop you right down here. In 1874, the Atlascope always takes you to the oldest layer, or almost always, unless you're just like moving around within a layer. So you can actually select from this drop-up list, choose a different year, like 1933, for example, and then you would see it like this. Much different. Different style, definitely. Hard to tell from just a glance if a lot of things have changed in those 60 years, but I imagine they have. You can also compare it to a different map. So here we're comparing it to a modern street map of Boston. But if you click this swipe up, you can compare it to like a modern aerial view of Boston instead. You can also swipe Y. You can swipe X. You can play with the opacity of the layers a little bit if you want, or you can do the traditional kind of spyglass method that we've been doing. I also recommend, maybe not right now, but when you're looking at Atlascope later on your own time because you love it so much and you want to use it for all of your personal research, you can click About This Map down in the bottom right-hand corner, and it'll take you to source information for the map that you're looking at. So it'll tell you the title of the atlas, the publisher, so you can choose your favorite publisher. It'll tell you what year, and then you can also click on any of these links to take you to the source information that you're looking for. Oops.
And you can even come to the Leventhal Map and Education Center once we reopen in person sometime in the next few months and see these atlases in real life.
Yeah, so you'll need to know which one you want to look at. And this is what they will look like if you do that in person. So this is like just a page spread from words 13 and 15 in the city of Boston. This is plate 5. And what we've done is basically cut out around, not the actual paper, we promise, but digitally cut out around the streets and glued them together so that you can see the whole city at once instead of having to turn the pages. So is everybody feeling ready?
One thing about Atlascope, if you get totally lost and you're like, where am I? What am I looking at? What year am I looking at? Just refresh your browser. It'll start you off from scratch, and it's a great way to get back to square one if you're confused.
Yeah. Luckily, we have a round for you to kind of internalize that information and not have to worry too much about it. First, we're going to do Emerald Necklace by the numbers. So, Joelle, would you like to read these questions for us?
Yes, nice How to Be a Millionaire font.
Thank
And
you.
Right.
just a brief reminder, again, you're going to submit the form, the answer form, after this round is complete. So there's a set of questions within the round. And when the round's done, your team should submit one answer form. Ready to go? Cool.
All right, let's go. So question 1 of round 1. How many acres makes up the emerald necklace? A, 500 acres. B, 1,100 acres. C, 1,500 acres. Or D, 2,100 acres.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire layout. I did not get the Jeopardy countdown music.
Moment of silence
Next time.
for Alex Trebek.
Yeah, I've been watching Buzzer. They have this game show network that I've been watching that has old game shows on it, and they do have a tribute placard for him that they've been running.
Oh,
it's very sweet. They chose a really good picture.
This is a hard question because I've noticed many people, including myself, have no idea what an acre, like how big is an acre? Is it like a football field, or like no, since we don't farm very much anymore, and an acre is a farming unit, I think people who are not surveyors or realtors don't have a sense much of what acres are.
I agree.
I work in parks and I'm still iffy about acres every now and then.
Hopefully miles is one people can get behind.
Yeah.
So question number 2.
All right. So question 2, how long is the emerald necklace from end to end? A, 5 miles. B, 7 miles. C, 12 miles. Or D, 13 miles.
Yeah, but even I feel like what we were saying about acres still does stand, even with, like, I don't know how I would know how long a set of parks is. I was like trying to figure that out. How would I figure that out unless I already had internalized this information?
I bet the people who are like exercisers in the park are gonna know this one, right? Because those people have mileage and distance ingrained in their heads.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or at least their Strava running app does for them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, question 3. Get ready for it. In what year was the emerald necklace officially declared a Boston landmark? A, 1898, B, 1925, C, 1989, great album by Taylor Swift, or D, 2003.
Too bad Taylor Swift isn't playing. Probably. We don't know. We don't know the identities of any of our players, so.
Oh yeah, she could be.
Taylor, if you're out there, I hope you get I hope you get this one.
We had a question about what constitutes the emerald necklace. Joelle, do you feel like you can answer that question?
What constitutes it park-wise?
Yeah.
So I don't want to give too much away because it might give away some answers, but the emerald necklace stretches from the Boston Common all the way to Franklin Park. So all of the green space and park spaces and in between those two parks is a part of the emerald necklace. So a lot of land.
It is a lot of land. But who knows how many acres or hectares.
Yeah. Some people might. Taylor Swift might.
I always joke it really is more of like the emerald watch chain, since it was not, I don't know if I can't remember if we have a question about this later, so I don't want to give it away, but of course the emerald necklace was never completed. It was meant to be a full loop around the city. So I always advocate calling it the emerald watch chain because it kind of like jangles down and never finishes.
Well, maybe we're seeing the necklace in profile.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Ah, yes. All right, so the 4th question, how many trees are currently in the Conservancy's Emerald Necklace Tree Inventory, the first of its kind, in Boston? A, 1,000 trees, B, 2,500 trees, C, 5,000 trees, or D, 8,000 trees? Lots of trees.
Yeah, any way you slice that, it's a lot of trees.
Speaking of numbers, Nicholas Cusi has said in the chat that an acre is 0.405 hectares or 4,840 square yards, which sadly does not help me at all. It wasn't like, a hectare.
Yeah, now that I know it's 0.405 hectares.
Yeah.
That's all we need to know.
Good thing we didn't give that away.
That's elementary right there.
Yeah.
All right, question number 5.
How many cherub statues surround the fountain in the Kelleher Rose Garden? A, 4 cherubs, B, 6 cherubs, C, 8 cherubs, or D, 12 cherubs? That's a good amount of cherubs. Not the amount of trees, but...
This will be easier once we release Cherubscope, our new mapping app that only shows the location of cherubs.
I think we can pull that off.
Yeah, our developers are hard at work as we speak. Joelle, can you tell us more about the Emerald Necklace Conservancy and the work that you do?
Yes, so the Emerald Necklace Conservancy has been around for over 20 years at this point, and we oversee 6 of the parks within the Emerald Necklace. So I am the land stewardship coordinator. So sorry, my earbud is falling out of my ear. So I run the volunteer programs, work with fellow volunteer leaders, and I work with the rest of the staff for maintenance and restoration projects.
Super.
And along with that, there's also a lot of advocacy projects that the Conservancy does alongside with Boston and Brookline and a bunch of partners within those 2 cities.
That's awesome.
It's great to have you guys here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So we're at the end of round 1, which means you should settle on how many cherubs for that final question, and then submit the form with your team name and choose round 1 in the drop down for which round it is, and send your answers our way. And what we're going to do as we go on is we're going to be scoring behind the scenes. I'm actually going to drop off for a little bit and join our remote office scoring. And then once round 2 is finished, Rachel and Joelle will reveal the answers to round 1, and hopefully we'll be able to keep up with scoring and have a live winner by the end of the game.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if too many teams showed up tonight, it might be a little hard, but we won't know until...
That's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have.
All right, I'm going to descend into my sealed scoring chamber.
Bye, Garrett.
I'll see you all in a bit.
Start your work.
So everyone should submit and then refresh that page so that you can submit for round 2, which is going to be pre-park parcels. You are going to need an Atlascope for this. So again, atlascope.leventhalmap.org. That is in the chat already. So head to that website and we'll get started. In 1895, who owned the land that is now the soccer field of Lincoln Park in Somerville? So maybe I'll help you out with a little bit with this one. If you're in Atlascope and you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to click the middle button, which is search places. You are going to type in one of the most helpful phrases in this question. And then you are going to make sure you have the right one selected. I would recommend comparing to modern aerial imagery instead of modern map if you want to see where the soccer field is. And then whoever owns the land above where the soccer field is, that's the name of the person you should type in. So I guess you do have to know what a soccer field looks like from the air to get this answer. But besides that, there's no like external information that you have to bring in to answer this question. Joelle, were you saying you haven't used Atlascope before, right?
I have not used it before.
Oh, I'm sure you're going to be using it every
as well. Oh, after this, yes. And I'm gonna hop on that cherub project too.
Yeah,
I'm
we can't wait
really
to have
invested
you on
in all the things right now.
that.
And maybe we can do a soccer field map as well.
I honestly think that would be something people would find helpful. Not that people won't find the cherub map helpful,
I
but
would find the cherub map pretty helpful, but that's just me. But I think the soccer field one could also be maybe just as helpful.
yeah, it would just appeal to a different audience, not necessarily wider.
You got to cover all your bases.
Figuratively, it's not baseball,
But yeah, that's another map in the future.
So question number 2. What product was manufactured in almost every year shown on the land that is now Danahy Park? So if you're in Atlascope already and you've found the answer to the first one and you're feeling really good about it and now you're confused, you can either refresh the page or down in the lower left-hand corner, you can still click search places. So you can search new places after you've already searched one. Sometimes I lose track of that button and then I do get really frazzled and have to refresh the page.
A moment of panic.
But I do use this a lot. So if anybody is honestly, if you love it, please keep using it. If you have things that you wish were different about it, we are making a new version of it that we will take your suggestions into account for. So great. For people, I don't know how long to give people for these ones. I feel like I can find these things pretty quickly, but I don't know about.
You're really well acquainted with this map, though.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's long enough. I feel like we can find them because it's in every year, except the first year. Okay, question number 3. If I'm going too fast or too slow, you can write me a comment, and then I'll change my pace. In 1924, on the land which is today Millennium Park in West Roxbury, what do the individual landowners of large parcels of that land all appear to have in common? So you're looking for, well, I won't go too in depth this time, but you're looking for something that all of the landowners appear to have in common. Somebody asked what the year on the first question was. 1895. 1895. I've never actually been to Millennium Park. I realized I live in Roslindale, which is pretty close to West Roxbury, but
yeah, you were a stone's throw away. I also don't think I've been to Millennium Park, but I didn't live a stone's throw away. So I think I have more of an excuse.
Yeah, I'm very close. I should mention that all of the maps that we're talking about in this section of the this round of trivia, these are not Emerald Necklace parks, and they're also not parks that exist on the maps that we're looking at right now. So what we're looking at is what they were beforehand.
And I can't get in trouble for not having been to this park because it's not an Emerald Necklace Park.
Yeah.
In case my boss is watching.
All right, question number 4. What 2 markets were on the land that is now Christopher Columbus Park? So I've definitely been to this one. I used to work in the North End.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
I used to work in the area as well. So
oh, really?
I've spent a lot of time.
I worked at the Paul Revere House, which was pretty fun.
Oh, nice. I used to work at the aquarium.
Nice.
So,
yeah, I feel like I know a lot of people who used to work at the aquarium. Or who do currently.
We're a big group of people.
Yeah. It's a nice place to walk past, at least, and see the sea lions. So I imagine.
Yes. I still do that.
What was your favorite? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you can also see the harbor seals right in the front.
Oh, that's
and then in the back. Yeah. Well, in the back, you can see the sea lions and the seals. Yeah. So there's many opportunities to see seals or sea lions.
Large floppy mammals.
Yes, large marine mammals.
Question number 5. In 1882, on the property of today's Rose Kennedy Greenway at Rose Wharf, what address would you go to get a haircut? So this one's a little tricky. Also, you might notice there are 2 map layers for 1882, I think. So you gotta choose the right one. It's pretty obvious which one is the right one because one of them has like no information on it. That's something that is interesting about these maps is that they're mostly property property ownership maps. They're either real estate or fire insurance. So they might not have information necessarily that appeals to us today all the time because they're like telling you that this building is more likely to catch on fire than that other building. And if the buildings don't exist anymore, that's not necessarily something we need to know. And sometimes it just tells you kind of like who owned the land and nothing else. But a lot of these are really rich in information. So the one that you should be looking at right now has like different colors on it, which signify different types of building material. Some of them have like little lines on the sides that tell you like what floor the window openings are on. So like where people could escape from a burning building. They can tell you like where there's like hot oil, which buildings have night watchmen. All of that information is on some of these maps. So
oh wow.
Yeah. I think they're really fun to look at. And some of them are really pretty to look at too. So when we go through the answers, you guys can see. Hey, Garrett.
We had such a good time in the scoring room. The answers are just like flowing out, and we're like checking that. We're like holding them up to it like a candle to check that they were all right. And
we have all the little cherubs writing them down.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a competitive game. There's some people are all over the score. Yeah. It's anybody's to win.
That's good. All right. Are people finished with this one? I think it's almost time to move on to the answers from round 1, but I'll leave this up for another couple seconds. One thing about this is that the Rose Kennedy Greenway is very long. So hopefully you chose the answer that was at the wharves and not the one at Dewey Square or the North End.
Just or full of barbers, right?
Just full of barbers. I mean, sometimes there are things that are all over the place. Like I found so many pickle factories.
There's a lot of pickle factories. Mm-hmm.
Lots of pickle factories. Yeah. One in every neighborhood.
Today it's Dunkin' and CVS. Back then it was barbers and pickle factories.
Tin can manufactories are a big one.
It's like I was on my way to the pickle factory and it started raining, so I just ducked beneath the other pickle factory.
There's a new Seth Rogen movie about pickle factories.
What?
Well, I think that's like a plot point, is that there's a pickle factory and he like gets preserved in brine and then pops up 100 years later with his grandson, and then he has to like.
Is it a Seth Rogen live action of The Jungle? cutting expose of Chicago.
I think it turns out better for them than anybody in the jungle. But I'm just guessing. I haven't seen it.
No spoilers.
All right. Shall we look
I
at
would
the
love
answers?
a live action. If any producers or Hollywood moguls are following this, please make a modern day reboot of The Jungle.
That's what this year needs particularly is a modern reboot of The Jungle. All right, let's look at the answers to round 1. Emerald necklace by the numbers. So Joelle asked us how many acres make up the emerald necklace, and Joelle, what's the answer?
The answer is B, approximately 1,100 acres, which is half of Boston's parkland.
So
How many hectares is that?
I don't know. Let me go back in the comments.
So Belle, I know that you asked about the map of the emerald necklace. So here it is finally. Although you're probably scoring and too busy to check out our beautiful map.
Looks
just
like
a
a watch
reminder-
chain, doesn't it?
Just a reminder to submit your answers. Hit submit on the round 2. What did you say, Garrett?
I was just saying it looks like a watch chain, doesn't it?
It does look like a watch chain.
I will bring it up to my higher ups that we should just change the name.
So how long is the emerald necklace from end to end, Joelle?
It is approximately 7 miles. Don't ask what the hectares are for that either.
How many centimeters?
And then in what year was the emerald necklace officially declared a Boston landmark?
1989. Hopefully Taylor Swift got that.
Yeah, I should have made a Taylor Swift reference on this, but I just wasn't thinking that. And I was like, what happened in 1989? And then I looked it up, and Seinfeld came out. So here is the cast of Seinfeld looking over Bussy Hill in the Arboretum.
This photo was taken in 1989.
Yeah, I found this. All right, how many trees are currently in the Conservancy's Emerald Necklace tree inventory?
A lot of trees, 8,000 trees are in the tree inventory.
Wow. And do you have a sense of, does that represent almost all of the trees, or are there some that are uninventoried?
There's definitely a few that are not in the inventory yet, but we're trying to get all of them.
That's awesome. I really like the idea of a tree inventory. That makes me feel like very like comfortable for some reason. I don't know. I guess I like cataloging.
All the like type A, like organized people just have a sigh of relief knowing there's a tree inventory.
I was actually doing some research on tree data in Boston a while ago, and in my Google searches, I came across a news article about the city arborist, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 years ago, whose name was Leif, or probably Leif Fixin, which, since an arborist's job is to fix leaves and fix trees, is the most amazing name. Leif Fixin. Leif, if you're out there, I don't know.
Didn't even have a choice for
I don't think
career.
she's still the city arborist, but whatever job you went to next, I hope it was still in
I hope you're still fixing
Leif. Exactly.
You should find them. Find their descendants. All right. How many cherub statues surround the fountain in the Kelleher Rose Garden, Joelle?
There are 4 cherubs.
Yeah. Not as many cherubs as some of you might have thought.
And definitely not as many cherubs as trees.
Is there a cherub inventory?
Soon there will be.
Somebody's actually asking.
A map.
Somebody's asking if your tree inventory is accessible online.
We have a page on the emeraldnecklace.org site for the Olmsted Tree Society. So that is what I am currently looking up to make sure.
I know the Arboretum, for those of you who are thirsty for some tree map inventories. I know that the Arnold Arboretum has a tree inventory map, which is fun to explore.
Yeah, the Arboretum has a plant inventory map as well. So not just trees, but all the plants. And it's like you can spend days on that. There's been times where I felt like I was, but I also don't know what a day is anymore.
I probably will. Garrett, you'll have to tell me later where in my timesheet looking at plant inventories goes.
I'm sure there's a road for it. All right, I'm going to go back to swearing. Have fun with round 3. Good luck, everyone.
Have fun in the office. All right.
So round 3. Emerald necklace, people and places.
All right. So the first question is, who was the main designer and landscape architect of the Emerald necklace?
So we took the training wheels off for this one. No multiple choice. You just gotta, you know it or you don't.
Gotta know it. There's been a few times already where I almost slipped up and said their name because I feel like it's just such a part of my job to say their name, but not right now.
Not right now.
Can't cheat with me.
It's like you're playing a very complicated game of taboo. Like,
yes.
Like I can't imagine if I had to do my job without saying the word math. I'd have to like circumlocute, like find different ways.
Yes, like I circumnavigate on this on this paper. Yeah, I couldn't even think about that. Like it's such a part of my vernacular at this point that not saying volunteer, landscape, insert name here, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
All right. Now on to the second question. What is the name of the river that flows south to north in Boston? And for any ecology nerds, it's really cool that this river flows south to north because most rivers don't do that. They usually go the opposite way.
The history of like rivers in Boston, particularly this one, but just like bodies of water all over the place. The way that Boston has tried to like build around them and build over them and direct them underground is so interesting.
Yeah. Like for example, this river that must not be named right now, it goes through like underground channels essentially because of that very reason. Just like that's how they built things around the river and whatnot. So it doesn't seem like it actually flows all the way, but it does. It's just underground in some parts.
So hopefully you've all actually gotten the name of the river or put in a really good river name. Question number 3.
All right. After what famous Boston-born historical figure is Franklin Park named?
A lot of Franklins to choose from out there.
I'm thinking Franklin the Turtle. You remember that cartoon?
That's pretty good because I feel like I see a lot of turtles in like Jamaica Pond.
They're all named Franklin.
They're all named Franklin after this person. Every time a turtle is born in the Emerald necklace, it is taken to Franklin Park, given a little tiny bottle of champagne, and christened.
Blessed.
Franklin. All right.
Franklin the Turtle inventory too. Question 4. What famous American poet once resided at what is now known as Schoolmaster Hill in Franklin Park?
I feel like this is a good one, especially if you're into like poetry of Boston. You'll probably get this one.
Hopefully. And maybe some like little like treasure chest of knowledge from high school English class will unlock for you right now. There's a lot of cherub chaos happening in the comments.
Yeah, there really is.
I love it. That's my favorite type of chaos.
I would love to know how many cherubs there are. I feel like there aren't that many cherubs in the Arboretum, but maybe
Yet.
yeah, until we get our hands on it. I feel like there are some like gravestones, and there's that gravestone pattern that is either like cherub or death's head. And I feel like some of those could classify.
Yeah, they would go in the inventory. Yeah, there is Franklin Hills Cemetery, which is alongside some of the Emerald Necklace parks. So I wonder how many cherubs are on the tombstones there. Might have to spend a site visit there one day to find out.
Question number 5.
In number 5, who is the original architect of the Emerald Necklace Conservancy's Shattuck Visitor Center in the Back Bay Fens?
I feel like this one's like a deep architecture dive.
Yeah.
But if you're a true Emerald Necklace Conservancy stan, you'll,
as you should be.
As you should be.
I'll
as
see my
we
way
all
out
will be after
not.
tonight.
I won't leave the trivia net until everyone is.
Very good. Cool. Well, I feel like you either know that one or you don't. So I'm not going to give you time to Google it. So submit your answers for round 3, and we will go over the answers to round 2. Hey, Garrett. So in 1895, who owned the land that is now the soccer field of Lincoln Park in Somerville? The answer is the heirs of Daniel Sanborn. This is not a particularly good image, but I wanted to show the field, the soccer field, beneath, and the heirs of Daniel Sanborn above.
I love it. Now, the real question is, who owned the band Lincoln Park?
That is a good question.
1889.
Who owned the trademark for the name Lincoln Park, and who did they have to buy it from?
Daniel Sanborn.
So what product was manufactured and almost every year shown on the land that is now Danahy Park? Is that how you say that, Garrett?
Yeah, I think so. Danahy. Mayor Danahy Park.
The answer is bricks. So we've got Bay State Brick Company. We've got New England Brick Company, New England Brickyards Company, and New England Brick Company again. I wanted to make bricks out of them, so that's what I did. But yeah, almost every year, 5 out of the 6 years, I think, that are available for that location, there are bricks made there. This is something I've noticed a lot about Atlascope that maybe other people are not interested in, but I am, is that a lot of the time a place will get turned over to a different owner, but it'll still be used for the same thing. So that happens again and again and again, that the property owner is different, but the function of the place remains the same, which I think is pretty cool.
And some of that is the sort of economic geography, right? Like in the late 19th century, you need bricks to build buildings, and you don't want to transport them very far, and they need to be on a rail line. So these kind of like edge of the city places, like what's now Danahy Park, Tufts, Nathan Tufts, I think, built his fortune on bricks. So, you know, it makes sense. You have a big brickyard. You're not going to turn it into something totally different if you're making a living selling bricks.
Yeah.
You mean they're not turning it into pickle factories? Darn.
Actually, though, if I'm remembering right, one of our questions for our very first Atlascope trivia, when we did it in person, I think there was a pickle factory in Tufts Park near Potterhouse Square. So it all comes back to pickle factories.
There we go.
I think you're right. All right, let's see if you guys were right on this one. In 1924, on the land which is today Millennium Park in West Roxbury, what do the individual landowners of large parcels of that land all appear to have in common? Which is a mouthful, but I just wanted to cover all my bases. They all appear to be women. So Annie Richards, Minnie Cruff, Mary D. McLean, and then over here, it's kind of hard to see because of all of the properties that have been divided up, but Ada Stoddard owns all of these. And then there are a couple of like corporate land ownership entities. So there's Bunker Land Company here. The town of Brookline owns this little slice of it. And then some of it has been reclaimed for water, like city water stuff for the town of Brookline. What two markets were on the land that is now Christopher Columbus Park? So if you've been to the North End, you know that Christopher Columbus Park is very close to all of the like old markets down there, like Quincy Market, but Mercantile Market and Clinton Market used to be there as well. So those got turned into a park.
It's not on Atlascope maps, it's even older, but that same area had a little stream running through it in pre-colonial, pre-European Boston. The North End was actually sort of an almost island because there was a stream that ran through the Mill Pond, which is like where today's North Station is, coming out down to the east of what's now Faneuil Hall.
Yeah, going into Dock Square, I think. And actually, this is a fun fact about the 17th and 18th centuries is that a dock was actually the water. So the dock was the little inlet of water around which what we now call docks would have been. For them, the dock was the water, not the platform. Question number 5. In 1882, on the property of today's Rose Kennedy Greenway at Rose Wharf, what address would you go to get a haircut? And the answer is 179 Broad Street. If you thought it was Atlantic Avenue, nice try. You had to zoom out a little bit to see that these numbers go to Broad Street, and the 300s, it's in the 300 block for Atlantic Avenue. I think we're giving partial credit on that one.
I wonder what 179 Atlantic, we should look what it is. It's the poor person who went to get their haircut. Probably a pickle factory. I went to 179 Atlantic Ave. Yeah.
I forgot to check what it is today. I should have.
I'm going to put good money on that is the Dunkin' now.
All right. Round 4. Oh, somebody said it was on Atlantic Ave. Sorry, guys. All right, round 4. Parks, streets. So streets that have park in the name. Park Street in Brookline appears to get its name from a small triangular park. What is the first year on our atlases that the park gets its own name? So we're going back over to Atlascope. You're going to have to open up your window again, atlascope.leventhalmap.org, and look up Park Street. Make sure you choose the right one.
Don't end up in downtown Boston.
Yeah, you'll be in the wrong place. I recommend if it's not showing up, type the whole word street, because there's like also Park Street School, Park Street Church, and I think you'll get rid of those ones if you type street all the way out. And you're going to Brookline, which is a place that the Emerald Necklace runs through.
It is. See that full circle.
But yeah, there's this cute little park there, and for decades, it just says park on it. So don't answer park. I'm telling you that right now. It does get a name, I promise. You have to kind of go through the years. And that's something, I mean, like, for downtown Boston, that's really starting to be a little bit of work to have to go through all the atlases, because now I think we have like 24 layers in downtown Boston.
Oh, really?
So when you're looking at downtown Boston, you have a lot of like levels to choose from for different years. But in the kind of inner suburbs and like other areas of Boston, people made fewer atlases, and we have fewer atlases. So not as many layers to sift through. But that park does
I feel like having a lot of layers is a good problem to have.
It is. Yeah. It's like having 8,000 trees in your inventory. You got a lot of data there to work with, which is always, well, I don't want to say it's always good, but it's often good.
It has its perks. has his headaches too, but.
All right, question number 2. Park Place in downtown Boston used to be part of a longer street. What are the 2 different names of this street found on Atlascope? So make sure you're looking for Park Place, not Park Street, in downtown Boston. So yeah, I didn't know this actually before I looked it up, or before I was looking at it on Atlascope. That's something that I really love about using it, is that I'm always finding new information, which sounds like something that I would be supposed to say, but it really is true. I find new stuff all the time.
What was the coolest and newest discovery of yours?
The coolest and newest discovery. I feel like, well, it sounds, when you find out the answer to this, it's like not that exciting, so this would be pretty nerdy to say this one. But I really do think like finding ways that like companies have like bought up land and just like built a building where there used to be a street. Like that's basically what it looks like happened here. Is that a hotel like just like plunked itself down where the street used to go. And now it's 2 shorter streets instead of 1 long one. And I think that is pretty interesting. What else have I found out recently? I've also been trying to do I'm doing these like community history nights. We have one coming up on next Thursday, a week from today, on West Roxbury. Oh yeah, I found like this cool history of the Jewish cemeteries in West Roxbury, where they like kind of like expand really quickly over a period of decades, from being like having no cemeteries there to having like the cemeteries of like a dozen congregations all in the same area.
That is really cool.
I thought so. Cool. So number 3, what year does Park Place in Newtonville first appear on the map? So we're going to be looking up Park Place, but it's a different one from the one that you just looked up. So make sure you're selecting the Newtonville option, and then you're looking for the year that it first appears. So this one's a little easier. I think there are only 5 layers there. I could be wrong. And a couple of them are from the same atlas. So something interesting that we noticed when we were working with these atlases, again, interesting to me at least, is that sometimes the cartographer like drew a zoomed out version of the map, like at one zoom level, and then zoomed in really deep for the rest of the atlas. So we have 2 layers that come from the same atlas. One that shows kind of like the overview of the area, or like a sketch of the area, and one that shows like really insane detail. And there's also one in Newton where there's like one section of it that's at a very high zoom that is like along Washington Street in Newton. And that was like, from a data standpoint, very complicated to figure out how we were going to ingest like 2 things that had the same name. We figured it out, don't worry. But it was like an interesting problem to have after we had done so many of these and they hadn't had this funny feature, and then suddenly this one did. So I think the one that has the answer, I think, has this problem. Question number 4. In 1924, Parkway Street in Dorchester Center is slated to run or cut through whose property? So there's a person, they have property, and they have it for quite a while, actually. And then in 1924, there's a little edit made to the map. So when you guys are looking at this, I think this is so cool that like these maps are kind of used as living, active documents. So they're not just like printed once and then they stay the same, because obviously land ownership is changing all the time. So people are drawing on them, people are marking them up. There's this thing that happens called paste-ons, which sounds a lot more risque than it is. It's like basically stickers that the producer of an atlas would send you to fix little things that were wrong or had changed. So like instead of printing a whole new atlas from 1924 to 1926, in 1926 they would just send you like an envelope full of stickers, and then you would have to go through and like fix the parts that had changed.
It's like the 1926 version of Whiteout.
Yeah. All right, question number 5, last question of this round. 1898 is the first year on our maps that Park Street Station is depicted. We still use the same entrances from back then, but something has changed in that area of the park since the map was drawn. What is it? So you're looking at 1898. I think the fact that Park Street Station is there is very cool. It's, what, 222 years since then? So maybe a little scary, maybe cool, depending on how you interpret that information. And that's all the same, but there is something different about that area of the map, that area of the park.
I'm curious about this now. I've spent a lot of time in my life in
This is
Park
something
Street Station.
This is something
Not that I
found out today.
Oh wow!
That I think is worth knowing. It's a fun, very fun fact. Might not be fun right now if you guys can't figure it out, but if you are figuring it out, it's probably very fun. And Garrett just shared a map story.
Yeah, for more Park Street Station map
Lore.
trivia, map stories, you can read that little interactive in your own time. My favorite fun fact about Park Street Station is on the Red Line tunnels, which of course were not there in 1898, but there's these statues above the tracks of these hands, one's like in either direction, and they're one of my favorite, like least noticed pieces of public art in Boston. Yeah, next time you're on the Red Line at Park Street, look up, and there's these.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if they're brass or what, but these
Wait, that is
statues.
actually really amazing. I'm usually just looking down at like the little rats and the tracks. But now I'll look up.
Much easier to see now that they've redone the lighting.
Have they redone? I haven't been in Park Street Station.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a minute.
No.
Yeah, I haven't. Definitely. Well, yeah, it's been months for sure. Cool. So hopefully you've found it by now. What has changed on the map? And we will head to our answers from round 3.
Rachel, before you start reading the answers, can I give a little update from the scoring chambers?
Oh, please, yeah.
Yeah, so we've run our advanced algorithms and crunched it through the supercomputers, and like I said, it's a tight game. There as of the end of round 3, there were 2 teams tied in first place with 11 points. Joe Mapo or Mapo and Mario Cartography with a pun on, I guess, my name, Double Dash Nelson. I don't know, Mario Cartography, what you were thinking. I'm gonna not be insulted by your team name and congratulate you on being in first place for now. There's also quite a few other teams that are close to them. So teams with 10, 9.5, 8 points. So with 2 more rounds to go, there's still some way to catch up.
All right.
I know that those top 2 teams have definitely been in the running every time. So it's got some stiff competition here. All right.
Let's see.
So Joelle, who was the main designer and landscape architect of the Emerald Necklace?
It was Frederick Law Olmsted, and he actually planned and designed Central Park in New York City and a bunch of other parks all throughout the United States. So he's a pretty big deal.
And then his kids took over, right? 2 of his sons, I think. So there's a lot of Olmsted parks out there that were designed by him, and then a lot designed by his children as well.
It was actually his sort of stepson, Olmsted, a weird thing. He married his brother's widow. His brother died when he was young.
That was pretty normal back then.
Yeah, I guess back then. But there's a lot. The Olmsted family tree is confusing because of that and other things. But yes, the Olmsted landscape architecture dynasty. Somebody, I think it was just a typo. Forget the W in law. We still gave you points, but I was laughing that it's the little-known Spanish landscape architect Frederick La Olmsted.
La Olmsted.
So question number 2. What is the name of the river that flows south to north in Boston?
That river is the Muddy River. And despite its name, it's really not muddy at all. But part of it does go underground.
Part of it goes underground, and clearly back then, I don't know if you guys can see this, but it says like suggestion for the improvement of Muddy River here. So that's improvement is a big 19th century word used around land and land use. And they definitely had like a very clear idea of what that meant. It's kind of like a euphemism for, I don't know, for changing the use of land in a way that was more aesthetically pleasing or more economically valuable. Would you say that's right, Garrett?
Yeah. I mean, the whole ideology of improvement is really interesting. Of course, Olmsted was really tied up in that as well. It has roots in, or has connections with early ecological thought, certainly a sense of like who gets to own land and who gets to use land for different purposes. And of course, the Muddy River is interesting because the whole northern stretch of the Muddy River was really just tidal estuary, along with the rest of the Back Bay. And you can see that in some of the oldest Atlascope maps, that it was a kind of trickle into marshy wetlands. Of course, those marshy wetlands, we sometimes point out, are thought to be one of the largest human-made interventions in the landscape by pre-European peoples. So there were fish weirs in that area. Excavations around where the BPL is have discovered those pre-European fish weirs. So it was already a really transformed landscape even before European colonialism. And then, of course, it's been continually transformed since then by Olmsted and by others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely wrong to look at this as like the first project that happened in the area. But it is definitely large scale. So after what famous Boston-born historical figure is Franklin Park named? Probably a lot of people got this.
It is named after Benjamin Franklin.
So
I was really hoping Franklin the Turtle would.
I know, me too. I was rooting for that. I hope some people voted for that.
I thought people already know what Ben Franklin looks like, so instead I put this cute map of Franklin Park that's in our collection.
When Olmsted created Franklin Park, he called it the Jewel of the Emerald Necklace because it's the biggest park in the Emerald Necklace at over 500 acres.
Yeah, Olmsted was actually a lot more, by the end of his life, a lot more proud of his work in cities other than New York. People are always like, oh, said that Frank Olmsted Central Park, but he actually had a fairly like fleeting and tormented relationship with New York's municipal government, and was much more proud of Boston, Buffalo. New York was another really important Olmsted design. Cities all around the country.
And outside of the country, Mount Royal Park in Montreal.
Yep, exactly.
So what famous American poet once resided at what is now known as Schoolmaster Hill in Franklin Park?
And this is Ralph Waldo Emerson. Hopefully your high school English knowledge came to help you.
Just zoomed in at the last second. Yeah, here's Schoolmaster Hill over here. I really like this. Is from one of the atlases on Atlascope. I can't remember what year. Sorry, I think 88 or 99. One of those numbers. One of those good numbers with 8s and 9s. And I love how like they use the whole plate to just for Franklin Park and labeling all the different parts of it. So I really like that. is the original architect of the Emerald Necklace Conservancy's Shattuck Visitor Center in the Back Bay Fens?
I think this was a stumper. I think nobody got this. It
was hard. I don't know enough about architecture to have gotten this one.
No Emerald Necklace Conservancy stands, I guess, but it was H. Richardson. But there was an interior renovation that was done in 2010 by Anne Beha, either or of those. So if someone got that, I would consider that right too.
Yeah.
Richardson is the architect, of course, also probably most famously Trinity Church, directly, which we look at across Copley Square from the BPL.
That does make sense. This is the original 1882 building, I believe. This little picture.
And that building is now a visitor center. And when it's open, you can go in and check out a lot of big signage of the natural history and the history of the Conservancy. So check that out when it opens again. TBD about when that is.
Some future time. All right. Have fun.
Bye. All right. This is our last round tonight. So do really good on this. Emerald Necklace, Flora, Fauna, and the Natural World. Question number 1, Joelle, take it away.
All right. What is the most common type of tree in the Emerald Necklace? A, red oak, B, Douglas fir, C, white cedar, or D, American elm?
This is a tough one. Some of these are very common here. Some of them a little less common. I have to say most of what I know about what trees are normal to see is actually from the Arboretum. And I feel like that knowledge is...
I feel like that's a skewed knowledge.
That knowledge is wrong.
Yes.
because there are trees in the Arboretum that are from all over the world. So the actual trees that are common to find here and that are not like an invasive or imported species are, yeah.
Oh, good thing you're not on the trivia team tonight.
I know.
All right, question 2. What is the name of a local stone that is heavily featured in the design for the Emerald Necklace? A, Boston basalt, B, Milford granite, C, Roxbury pudding stone, or D, Brighton shale? Or shale, I think.
Shale, yeah.
Shale. It's been a bit since I've taken a geology class.
I love geology. It's so much fun.
Me too.
Yeah, I took a bunch of geology in college, not because it had anything to do with what I was doing there necessarily, but
but like rock's rock, you know?
Yeah, it's really cool. I took a paleontology course in the geology department too.
That is very cool. I took a class that heavily featured geology of the Grand Canyon, so I can tell you about that.
I don't know how helpful that's going to be tonight, but I will take you up on that another time.
Probably not. All right, question 3. Jamaica Pond was formed as a result of blocks of ice left behind by retreating glaciers, which become surrounded by sediment deposited by meltwater streams. What is this common type of water body called? A, an estuary, B, a kettle pond, C, a glacial moraine, or D, a playa?
I have to say, I also am just recently becoming used to the fact that people say water body.
Yeah, I felt very odd saying that.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot quicker than saying body of water. Well, not a lot
it's
quicker.
More efficient, yeah. But that adds up, you know?
It really does. It's a lot less cumbersome when you're writing a long sentence, I think.
Yeah, but you don't get that extra word count, though. Depending what you're writing the sentence for.
I feel like I'm always trying to shave off words from my sentences and not add words.
Yeah, I like to write very verbosely, so I have the same issue. All right, question 4. How many different cultivars of roses are there in the Kelleher Rose Garden? A, 1 cultivar, B, 40 cultivars, C, 110 cultivars, or D, 200 cultivars?
There are a lot of roses. I would be surprised if there were only one type.
No hints.
No hints, sorry. But I
Yes, I
scrolled through a
agree.
lot of pictures of the Kelleher Rose Garden, and it's very beautiful, and I'll have to go sometime.
Oh, definitely. And very close by to the Rose Garden is a Victory Garden. So it was an actual ran Victory Garden back in the 1940s, and it's still being kept up to this day. So it's really cool to just walk through.
That's very awesome. I definitely didn't know that about the emerald necklace.
I have the trivia.
All right.
We can have like another like sudden death round if need be.
Time.
It might be. It's close. All right. So the 5th question and last question of this round is what species of lizard can be found in the Fenway Victory Gardens and is the northernmost and only known population of lizard in eastern Massachusetts? A, butterfly lizard, B, a granite night lizard, C, Italian wall lizard, or D, Sullivan's bunchgrass lizard?
I really like all of these. I would like for all of these.
I wish they were all here.
Back in the old days, you used to be able to just claim a species that you discovered and be like, I'm Slevin, and this is my bunchgrass lizard.
That's secretly one of my like biggest dreams, to just come across a species of something and name it after myself.
Bunchgrass lizard.
Yeah, there's already a Boyle's Law. I didn't get that though, so I need to get
claim
something
that it's
now.
yours.
I used to in chemistry class. I definitely did that.
You can have just a less important thing called Boyle's Rule or Boyle's Suggestion. Boyle's Suggestion. Boyle's Wrong Suggestion.
Boyle's Correct Opinion.
All right, let's head to the answers to round 4. Garrett, do you have an update for us?
Yes, as of round 4, it looks like Joe Mappo and Mario Cartography Double Dash Nelson are still neck and neck with one another. So round 5, don't mess up round 5. It's where the wheat and the chaff are going to be separated. But there's also 2 teams with 13, 1 with 12, 11, 2 with 12. So there's a handful close as well.
That's good. It's a tight game. Garrett, have we talked about what people are going to win?
I don't think we have. So we, as the Central Library of the City of Boston, became the recipient of many discarded copies of these atlases. These were used by realty interests, by insurers, and then when they stopped being needed, these realty libraries and insurance libraries tended to send them to us, where they got stacked up. And we don't need duplicate copies of them. We have kept all of the best copies and conserved them, which means that we have superfluous copies of some of these atlases. So the winners will be receiving some atlas plates, some real original atlas plates from the superfluous copies in the mail.
Yeah, we should have told you guys that earlier so that you would have
worked a little harder.
They would have gotten the architect's name for the building. They would have gotten H. Richardson.
Henry Hobson. It would have come back to you. All right, I'm going to go and help score this last round. So
cool.
Back to the chamber.
All right. Ooh, okay. Question number 1 from round 4. Park Street in Brookline appears to get its name from a small triangular park. What year does the park get its own name? The answer is 1907. So it's right next to St. Mark's Methodist Episcopal Church. It's just called Park before that in 1900. And then it becomes St. Mark's Square and St. Mark's Park inside of it. So that happens in 1907. Park Place in downtown Boston used to be part of a longer street. What are the two different names of this street found on Atlascope? So there's an earlier name and a later name. They are Pleasant Street and Broadway. So now it's like cut off up here by a big hotel. I think the Revere Hotel, but I could be wrong. And then Broadway keeps going, but not for very long, actually. It's a pretty short street, too.
I was hoping it was Park Plaza that cut it. That would have been funny.
That would be really good. I don't think it is, though, unfortunately. I mean, it might be today. I was just looking at old maps.
Oh.
Question number 3. What year does Park Place in Newtonville first appear on the map? The answer is 1886. So this is one of those ones that had a cute little sketch of part of this area too, but I chose the more descriptive, illustrated version. And Park Place, this is the first year that it's here, right between the Barretts and the Sheds. In 1924, Parkway Street in Dorchester Center was slated to cut through whose property? The answer is Charles Bottler. If you didn't know that Chaz is short for Charles, I think that's okay. Hopefully we still mark that correct. But if you went back a couple of layers, you could actually see that it was written out at one point. Something that I've become very familiar with that I think normal people are not familiar with from looking at these atlases so much is like common abbreviations for common 18th century or 19th century names.
I think we should bring back Chaz, like Governor Chaz Baker.
I think that would suit him. Yeah. So question number 5. 1898 is the first year on our maps that Park Street Station is depicted. We still use the same entrances from back then, but something has changed in that area of the park since the map was drawn. What is it? The answer is that the Brewer Fountain was moved. So I didn't even know the name of this fountain.
Wow, is that the one right? That's the one right. Well, like yeah, right next to Park Street Station.
Where the Park Street Station is. So it's down here now, but originally it was up here. I think it was endowed. It was put in the 1860s, and then at some point around 1917, it was moved, and they built the whole like little plaza around it. But it hasn't always been in the current location. So only for about 100 years.
Only 100.
But this is the kind of thing that I really like that Atlascope can tell you, is that even stuff that's been around seemingly forever has a history and was somewhere else, or something else happened to it.
That's really cool. I can't wait to tell people that.
It was over there.
See that fountain? That used to be there. That's how I talk to people.
And then, yeah, that's how you make friends. Answers for round 5: Emerald Necklace, Flora, Fauna, and the Natural World. So we don't have another round for you tonight. We're just going to go straight into the last round of answers. Hopefully our scores can catch up with us. So what is the most common type of tree in the Emerald Necklace, Joelle?
It's the red oak. Yeah. You probably see these leaves everywhere right now.
They are everywhere. They're so beautiful.
They are.
Really big fan.
I was at Franklin Park today, and because of the rain we just got, all the trees have dropped their leaves at this point. I mean, most of them, not all of them, but there's so many red oak leaves just everywhere right now. And I love it.
It's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What is the name of the local stone that is heavily featured in the design for the Emerald Necklace?
So this is the Roxbury Pudding Stone, which you've probably seen them if you walk through any of the parks.
Yeah, definitely. And it heavily features just like everywhere in the Boston area. If you've seen this like conglomerate is what it's called. It's like a bunch of different sizes of stone smushed together into one thing. Yeah, it's a big building material.
I got my toddler daughter to sort of say the word pudding stone when we were walking in Franklin Park last night. It's a word that sort of sounds like any babble that a toddler will do. So.
Oh, that sounds adorable.
That's very good. You're gonna have to send everyone a.
Yeah, we're big pudding stone fans.
The Milford granite is actually, I believe, what BPL is built out of.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a trick answer for BPL nerds.
Which I think actually might have been, we had our last round was with BPL's special collections, and I think the Milford granite featured in one of Meg Weeks's questions.
So question number 3. Jamaica Pond was formed as a result of blocks of ice left behind by retreating glaciers and became surrounded by sediment deposited by meltwater streams. What is that called when that happens?
That is called a kettle pond.
So this is a beautiful picture of Jamaica Pond, our resident kettle. And how many cultivars of roses are there in the Kelleher Rose Garden?
There are 200 cultivars.
There are
not one, more than one.
So many roses. That's really amazing.
50 cultivars for every cherub, right?
Yeah, it's actually
or now.
It's governed by how many cherubs there are. So as soon as they add a new cherub, they're going to have to find 50 more cultivars.
Mm-hmm. It's a good. It's the golden ratio: 50 to 1 cherubs to rose cultivars.
And then finally, the final question of the night: what species of lizard can be found in the Fenway Victory Gardens and is the northernmost and only known population of lizard in eastern Massachusetts?
And this is the Italian wall lizard. I have yet to see one, and I know I'm going to freak out when I finally do, but they're just amazing.
They're so cute. I looked at a lot of pictures of them tonight.
Is the lizard Italian or is the wall Italian? Like, is it a lizard that looks like an Italian wall, or is it an Italian lizard that lives on walls?
I am going to have to look into that.
The latter, I believe, but I am not an Italian wall lizard expert. I should be, but I do think they were originally from the Italy region until they were brought over here for one reason or another. So now they're also here in eastern Massachusetts.
That's so funny. Yep, the wall lizard. So
we have results, but before I read them, Rachel, do you want to hype up some of our fun upcoming events at the Map Center?
Yeah, I for sure do. So we've got a couple of events coming up next week. On Monday, we have an author talk. Amy Finstein is talking about her new book. I think it's called, what is it called, Garrett?
It is called Modern Mobility Aloft, and it's about the history of elevated highways in Boston and 2 other cities.
Yeah, there used to be a huge elevated highway like running straight down Boston, and where did that go? It would be nice to know. So if you want to know the answer to that question, head to that link for Monday. And then on Thursday, I will be presenting at the West Roxbury branch of the Boston Public Library. I will be doing that virtually, of course, so you can find me right here in the exact same place. And I will be talking about Atlascope and what kinds of things you can find out using Atlascope. So register for that, show up to that, and we'll have a good time.
We also wanted to put a little plug in for one of our partner institutions, the Boston Map Society, which is an independent group of map enthusiasts and map fans. Organizes lectures, oftentimes brings people to our events. Boston Map Society is making membership free this year while all of the events are online. So feel free to visit them at bostonmapsociety.org and become a member by signing up with your email address.
And if you're looking for a team for next trivia night, I feel like that's the place to go.
Yes, there's a nice little online community at Boston Map Society that you are all invited to join. And finally, we have a feedback form just about this event. Tell us how it went. What can we do differently next time? What do we do well at? We'll also post the slides to this set of trivia question probably tomorrow. Check our social media for that in case you want to go back and watch them. And of course, this live recording that we're saying right now will be on Facebook and YouTube for you to watch just over and over again on repeat as many times as you'd like. But that feedback link is going in the chat right now. Please take a second to fill it out and let us know what you thought. And now the results. So we had 5 teams that all came within striking distance of the top 2. So this is the bronze band. Or I don't know, should we use emerald as the top? What colors are like the silver and bronze equivalent of emerald? This is like the teal band maybe. So all of these, green. Yes, here's the seafoam green tier. Y'all did great, but you didn't quite make it. Yeah, that was Tyler and the Rats, Love That Muddy Water, Burns and Luath, Compass Rose Gold, and the Dunder Mifflin B team. Second place went to Mario Cartography, Double Dash Nelson, and squeaking by with a 1-point victory was Joe Mappo, which thank you for also including in your last submission a pronunciation guide to your name. We now know it's Joe Mappo. You have won with 20 points. Congratulations. Joe Mappo, please send us an email at info@leventhalmap.org so we know where to mail your commemorative atlas plate. And if there's any particular parts of the city that you'd like us to look for in terms of which plate that you'd like.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. Please fill out the feedback form so we know what to do a little differently for next time or what we should keep exactly the same. We'll definitely try to have Joelle back again.
We don't yet have our next. It would be super fun to do another parks themed one. I was gonna say we don't have our next trivia on the calendar yet, but it will probably be within the next few months. So keep an eye on us at social media at BPL Maps on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or our website leventhalmap.org for updates on what we're doing.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.